Welcome to the Cash Flow Project Podcast. Are you looking to better your financial situation by increasing your cash flow? Too busy to hunt for real estate deals or don't know where to start? Then you're in the right spot. Join us as we dive in and talk about investing for cash flow using multifamily real estate.
Welcome to the Cash Flow Project Podcast. I'm your host, Steve Quiros with Tri-City Equity Group. Today, super excited. We got on the show Jeff Iloulian with Host GPO. Jeff's been in the vacation rental industry for nearly a decade. He's set up, managed, and operated over 250 short-term rentals, vacation rentals, from cozy cabins in the woods to luxury mansions in Beverly Hills. I know he's kind of shared with some of the about that, so I'm kind of stoked to hear just that range of experience. He's the CEO of Host GPO, which is the first international group purchasing organization for the short-term rental industry. He's got a background in economics and philosophy from Columbia and a GD from UCLA, School of Law. So he's definitely got some background on the education side. Excited to have Jeff on the show. Jeff, welcome.
Thank you so much. Really excited to be here, Steve.
Yeah, no, thanks for hopping on. Well, for those of those of our listeners that may not be familiar with you, obviously we've met in person. I know a little bit about your background. Tell our audience, how did you get started in real estate? Kind of what got you to the point where you are right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was practicing as an attorney. I was doing a lot of litigation, some real estate stuff, but just generally working at a big law firm for about 3 years. I've always had a passion for real estate, always done real estate on the side, grew up in like real estate family. So that was something that I was always kind of aware of. But in 2014, I started to get into the short-term rental industry back when it was still very much the wild, wild west. It's still the wild west, but like it used to be the wild, wild west. And really learned a lot over that time. Operated a vacation rental company for about 7 years. We had 150 units operating at a time, but over that span, we probably set up way over 250 in terms of like homes, et cetera. And to get to where I am now, Host GPO, was really the result of me learning, doing a lot of vacation rentals, and having a big pain point, and then trying to solve it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's what we get. That's what we get paid for, right? It's like solving problems, bringing value to the table. No, that's awesome. Yeah. So I'm sure during that time, did you start, were you guys already still operating on that end? Like, was this kind of a vertical integration piece that you're like, hey, you know what, there's a need, obviously for your own portfolio or the properties that you're managing, but you're out in the field, you're co-hosting, you're operating your own units. There's got to be a need for stuff like that. And it's like, hey, look, I think I can bring some value on this front.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were literally the first user, right? In a lot of ways, us and about a dozen other companies that all had, anywhere from 10 to a couple hundred vacation rental units. And, ultimately for those of you that aren't familiar with Host GPO, we're a buying group. So we get negotiated discounts on furniture and linens and mattresses and amenities and supplies. And those are the things that we were buying a lot of. And so, rather than trying to figure out where to buy from and, playing, roulette with, is this good quality and stuff, this was a buying group that was put together where we started aggregating all these people that were buying the same things and going to big brands like West Elm and, CB2 and, mattress companies, linen companies, et cetera, and saying, hey, look, we're buying as a group in bulk. How do we get the discounted best pricing for everybody? And really solve my own problem for, how I was furnishing and setting up my units. I'm probably saved myself just in, the last year or so of running my company, $100,000 just in terms of the discounts that we negotiated. So that was really the solving your own problem part of how Host GPO got started.
Well, and how cool is that though, right? Because, I'm literally in the middle of a move. I just finished kind of wrapping up. Now, obviously, I'm in Hawaii, so I've talked to you guys. It's a little bit of a challenge for some of the companies. There's some additional shipping and all that kind of stuff to get to certain locations. But if you're on the mainland, I know how expensive it is really anywhere to set up a property. So if you can furnish it with better quality stuff than going to, Facebook Marketplace, right? Or, Walmart or, Target, not saying that, that stuff won't work for certain properties, but if you can do it for the same price as maybe, or, significantly reduced price, let's say from West Elm or, any of these places that you guys have negotiated discounts with, do that in a heartbeat, right? You buy nice, not twice, right? Like,
exactly. I mean, if you can get 30, 40, 50, 60% off from those brands, it's way better and way more efficient than even buying from an IKEA and having to pay to have it installed or building it yourself and wasting all that time. So, the idea is, how do you get better quality stuff at an even better price than what's available elsewhere? And Hawaii is a little bit tricky, and so is Alaska, although we do have a lot of vendors that are pretty good about it, especially as far as like linens and stuff go, and smaller furniture items are easier. But yeah, they're tricky markets, but we're all over the US and all over Canada, and we have over 200,000 units buying through Host GPO that have signed up.
Oh yeah, no, I've been, and testament, I'm a Host GPO member. You got to believe, when I was on the mainland recently, I'm in, West Elm, and I'm shopping for some stuff. And I'm like, okay, I want to buy this, because, we buy property in different markets. So always looking to set it up, looking for, different design trends and whatever they've got, let's say Williams Sonoma or whoever, because you guys have a bunch of different brands that you have negotiated deals. And I know that you're doing new stuff all the time too, right? Like you've got some newly released stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So we just announced a couple partnerships over the last few months here. I mean, the most recent one was Igloo Homes for locks, electronic locks, and key boxes. We recently launched Article and CB2. Those were pretty new. Ace Hardware is pretty new. So even in store at Ace Hardware, we recently launched a partnership with Google Nest. So all Nest products at like the best possible pricing. And we're about to announce one, I believe, next week, which will be great for your kind of paper goods and janitorial supplies and, paper towels, all that kind of stuff. So we're always expanding the vendors that we partner with. But one thing that's unique about Host GPO and what we're really focused on is none of the deals are your entry level deals. So like if you can go to a website and enter in your email address and you're going to get 20% off your first order, that means that the Host GPO discount's like 40% all the time, because we're really going in and leveraging the power of a buying group to make sure that we're not paying full price.
Yeah. I know I was talking to somebody recently, they were here locally. They're like, oh yeah, I get this discount or whatever, and it's so much XY percentage. And then I'm like, oh, let me see what it is, through Host GPO. And it was significantly more percentage wise. So Jeff's got the goods over there.
I love that. I love the actual live examples. It's my favorite when people are like, there's no way your discount's better than my discount. And I'm like, no, there's no way yours is better, because mine contractually with these companies is the best. So there's no way. I know for sure that yours isn't. But it's a cool thing. And once people join the group, and as the group gets bigger, it's just a better and better discount and better kind of options for us to be able to go out and bring new vendors on. So it's been a really exciting journey, and it's been really, really fun.
Was that the law background behind there? Just like twisting some arms?
Yeah, absolutely. The contracts are ironclad.
Right on. Well, I know you have a great background, like actually as an operator yourself, because, you talk to a lot of business owners and, okay, great. Like they may be awesome entrepreneurs, great working in a space or whatever and starting businesses, but you actually have experience as a short-term rental operator. So now I know your primary focus has been like what, arbitrage or like hosting kind of stuff, or?
Yep. Yeah. I was mostly an arbitrage guy, and got into kind of property management, co-hosting later down the road. But that was kind of my bread and butter in the short-term rental game. And then, I was reinvesting and diversifying those profits, in other areas, but that was really the cash generator.
Yep. No, and then it's absolutely vital. Now something too, like I see right now, like I've seen, obviously you got a bunch of headlines, kind of, clickbait kind of stuff out there right now, like Airbnb bust, right? Like, I've seen personally for, let's say, design or like quality of materials. Now, the last couple of years, you could have thrown anything out there. It would have, made money, right? There's just so much money floating around the system. Now, as it's getting more and more competitive, like how much more do you see like, all right, no, you've got to stay, you got to stand out really. So do you see more of an emphasis now, let's say with, those quality pieces and even just from your personal experience, how much more does that factor into the level of the quality of, let's say, a listing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that it's, for me, who's been in this space for a long time, I've seen this cycle. This is probably like the third or fourth one of those, where, the market tends to shift, the supply pops really dramatically, and then something happens and the demand starts to go down. I mean, even COVID was a good example of that at the beginning, where when demand really started to drop because travel was limited and started to creep back up, anybody that had kind of base level units or, was putting your really, really, basic, no decor, no style, low quality goods and low quality items inside, those pictures aren't going to attract they're just not going to attract guests. And once things get bad, you better believe all the pricing goes down and it gets really competitive. So you start to see the bottom 5%, 10%, 15%, 20% of listings get wiped out altogether. And while that was happening simultaneously, what happened, in 2021 was all of a sudden the demand ratcheted up really, really quickly. And you lost that bottom 15%, 20% of the market where the listings got taken down. And all of a sudden, everybody that was left was just couldn't count money fast enough. There was no limit to your pricing. You could literally charge whatever you wanted. The rates, for example, in my beach houses that I have out here in Southern California, I was getting 2-3x what I had ever gotten before during that summer of 2021, because the supply was so low and the demand was super high. So, that wave was a great one and lasted pretty much until the last quarter of 2022. And now all of a sudden you have potential recessions, you have people talking about, inflation, you have interest rates going up and, travel to some degree being affected. You also have travel moving into different markets. And so what that's really doing is forcing people to, again, have quality homes to stand out against their competitors. And so that type of volatility exists in every market. And I think that vacation rentals historically have been a little bit more insulated from it just because the demand overall was growing so rapidly that there wasn't even enough supply to ever keep up. And, it's just becoming like anything else where you're starting to get institutional money to come in and play. You're starting to get investment banks that are investing in, portfolios of short-term rental companies to expand, and a lot of the bigger players getting into smaller markets. So, they're doing it right. And if your listing doesn't look like or feel like what it says it does, or what Airbnb's pictures look like, you're gonna be more susceptible to that type of market volatility.
Yeah, and it's a stark contrast too, right? So I would kind of even suggest this for anybody. I'm not saying you want to have a quality or that you want to be, let's say, in certain markets, we're directly competing with a hotel, right? I mean, obviously, we're going to have advantages as short-term rental. You can offer a full kitchen and all this kind of stuff. But I think it's good. I mean, I stayed in a hotel. We went and stayed at a Hilton recently. We're doing some traveling. I think it's actually really good to see a freshly renovated hotel. If nothing else, just for a great reminder. Say, hey, look, if these guys are doing it right, they've got institutional capital, they've got big money at play. Take a look at the quality of, let's say, furnishings, the quality of design, and those kind of things that they put into their product. And then go look at your listings, right? If you're underperforming, to me, that's kind of the first thing. And we're in the midst of kind of having to go back and right now we want to revamp. It's a little bit slow season for some of our properties. Sure. Hey, I want to go ahead and improve my product. So I'm shopping, the catalogs. I'm shopping, all these different vendors that you guys have to see if we can up our game a little bit.
And there's really easy ways to do it too. I mean, you can make dramatic impacts. Even if you're refreshing a listing, you can make dramatic impacts with small amounts of investment. So, whether that's, hey, we're going to redo our linen program and make sure that we have all white, all unified standard linens to really make this feel like a more luxury experience. And we're going to buy linens that are going to last longer. So, maybe you've been in the industry for a little bit and you didn't have a streamlined procurement system at the beginning, and you were buying from Target and one from Walmart and a sheet from Costco and a towel from Bed Bath & Beyond. Now, all of a sudden, if you go into your listing, you've got like a off-white pillowcase with a cream color duvet with a white, flat sheet, and your listing starts to look like it's hodgepodge together, and that it's, not a professional, or clean or, luxurious type of experience. And so even something as simple as redoing your linen program or, buying one or two other pieces of art or replacing that like kind of worn down coffee table with something a little bit nicer and redoing your photography can make a pretty big difference.
Yeah. And this is the thought process too, right? Somebody who's operated at scale, right? And has a different kind of a mindset than versus somebody who's just starting out, or, because it's not necessarily the things that you're thinking about right off the bat, right? Like the quality of pieces or like that. All right, the interchangeability, right? Like you're talking about like having, all right, hey, you know what, we had some sheets that are not, they got messed up or something at a property, maybe they messed up the backups too. Okay, great. You know what, I probably have some spares, or you should have some spares if you've got a multiple units, let's say in a given market. Okay, great. You can have your cleaners just go and change those out. It's not a big deal. But it's a little bit more difficult to do if you're just like, oh shoot, what was at that property again? What colors do I have over there? And you don't have that unified kind of experience.
For sure. And the worst thing you can do is that last part about, panic buying. Panic buying is the worst thing you can do to your margins, where it's like, people look at profit, especially in the short-term rental industry, and they're like, how can I drive more revenue? How can I increase my ADRs? How can I get my occupancy higher? And I always tell people profit is a, multi-factor equation that includes revenue and expenses. And when you're running around and you're having your cleaner run to the nearest, or you yourself, hopefully not, because hopefully you're focusing your time on other things. But if you have to run to the local store and buy whatever it is at that store, it is by far the most expensive thing that you're doing. I mean, it's right after accumulating credit card debt, overpaying and panic buying for last minute items at the register that don't even match. I mean, that's the worst thing that you can do on an overall basis. You're best off having a small inventory closet with a box of bulk towels through Host GPO is 24 bath towels. If you got a 2-bedroom house, or even a 2-bedroom house with 2 bathrooms, you better have 24 bath towels in your, it's 4 of them out, 6 of them, 2 of them in the closet, 6, whatever, 6 from, in laundry. And then you should have backups. And that's not that many towels to get, but ultimately you bought 24 towels at the right price would be the same as buying 6 towels at the register, in a frenzy, especially when you factor in time, cost, gas, et cetera, going to the unit again a second time, refunding your cleaners, whatever else you're doing. I mean, it's thinking about this as a business, regardless of if it's your main business, is a really important way to be successful.
No, Jeff's right on the money too, because I mean, I have definitely had that happen before, where we're paying the cleaner, oh hey, you get that call from the cleaner, and something happened, right? And say, okay, well, I got to go run to Walmart or whatever, just because it's the closest available shop. And then,
by the way,
now
they don't care. What do they care?
Right.
Your cleaner has zero. Your cleaner has zero incentive to be in that aisle. And even looking at all of those towels, pick the cheapest one. They're gonna, or the right one, or the right quality to price ratio. They're gonna grab whatever is closest to the register.
Yep. And now like that, like if it's something like that, now you're mentally, you're almost kind of stuck with that until you can get the piece maybe that you wanted. If you're going to replace it, right? You're almost in this kind of trap of like, well, shoot, I don't want to double spend because I just bought that one to replace it. So now I got to go buy the nice one, the one that I wanted, and now send it over there. And so now you're double spending. Yeah.
And it really magnifies across every single item in your home. I mean, you name it, where it's like, back when I was operating, I mean, I would even do things like, okay, I'm going to find the cheapest toilet paper on Amazon. That's like the right quality, because I mean, look, for those of you that have been in this industry for a minute, it's like, you realize there is a magic number of ply, and it is 2-ply. It is not 3-ply and it's not 1-ply, but it's 2-ply, because all of those of you that have snaked 100 drains in your units are like, why am I snaking all these drains? And you realize it's because you're putting like 8-ply toilet paper in your, so whatever. Like, even if you figure that out, and you're like, okay, I found the 2-ply, I figured out what the right quality and price point is, and I put it in my Amazon and I ordered it, and it's like my go-to one, right? At some point, somebody else is going to be ordering that or reordering it, or you're going to reorder it yourself. And you go in there and you go to reorder it, and Amazon's pricing is like up and down, where it's like double the price the next week, and then one price, and then you type it in and you open it up, and it's from another vendor. And all of a sudden, I had somebody in my company who bought toilet paper at like literally 3 times the price I paid, because they bought it from a third-party vendor, because they typed it in and they bought the first one. So, all of that to say, through Host GPO, you can get toilet paper at a better price than anywhere on Amazon. But that's like a very different, I'm just saying, like, it's always that price. And we try to like make that happen, which is how businesses operate.
Yeah, no, and actually, that's where I really appreciate your insight. Because you're not just coming from, hey, you know what? Yeah, I'm just some guy who I've never operated, a vacation rental, so I don't really know what you're dealing with. Yeah, I'll really go with this one. Go with the high price one or whatever, just to drive kind of the bottom line.
No, it's not like that. And what's cool about Host GPO is everybody on our team, or at least most of the large majority of people on our team, are also hosts that operate, a lot of vacation rental units or have at least one. And they joined Host GPO to join a lot of them, and then ended up coming and joining our team and helping kind of, teach other people and bring other people into the group and help grow the community. So it's been a really cool experience to see that part of it as well, both my experience and the rest of the Host GPO team. I mean, we're in our kind of Slack channels talking about like guest issues and stuff like that too, because we're very much in this industry.
No, and I love that too, because everybody's kind of all here, like in Hawaii, right? It's like rowing is a big deal, right? Like paddling or whatever. It's like everybody's rowing in the same direction. And
yes.
you don't have like somebody, well, no, this is better. Well, this is better. Well, I don't have anything to speak of. And I've talked to them. I've met, people on you guys' team, and it's like, no, they're in the trenches too. They're short-term rental, they're owners, they're operators. And so I love that. I love that about you guys' company is, you're not just, well, do this. But that's, we're not really doing that. I mean, it's always a pet peeve of mine when I talk to people in the industry. It's like, oh, you're an agent and you're trying to sell me investment property. Oh, or do you invest yourself? Or it's like, well, do you have, what do you use? For your property? Well, I'm not, I'm not buying. I'm not an investor. And it's like, okay, well then I don't know why.
Yeah. We're exactly. I mean, we are the test and use case for everything. When we're piloting when a new vendor wants to join with a new product, we have them send samples to a handful of us, and we put them in our units. Like, hey, is this going to eliminate the smell? How did this work for you? Did anybody have a smoker that they went and sprayed this after? Like, did this work? Yes or no? All right, we're going to put it on or not. So, I mean, we test everything ourselves, and in our community, and it's been really fun.
No, I love that. Like I said, that to me, that just speaks volume about the company and that you guys are authentic in what you're bringing to the table. You're not just trying to sell a product. It's like, hey, no, we are bringing solutions. We know because we've beta, tested them or whatever in our own unit. So no, I love that. That's great.
Yeah, the linen conversations we had. I literally had one yesterday about like which set of linens, because I have multiple that I put in different tiers of property. So I have like one that's like my luxury go-to, and then one that's my like basic go-to linen. And we were having like deep conversations about like, what's the real difference and how many washes did this go through, and all that kind of stuff. It's fun.
No, that's great. And actually you guys have it's a big convenience to, you guys listening, make sure to check out their site, because when you're trying to set up a new listing, let's say you're new, right? You don't really kind of know. You're trying to get some guidance, go check out their site. And they have things that are already kind of set up just to make life a little bit easier for you as a host, right? Like you guys have your coffee in a box, right? Or you have your
kitchen, your whole kitchen, your whole amenity package, or the bed box is the one people love. Like, hey, you come in, you click 3 queens, 2 kings, and you want mid-level, and you press go, and it's going to put together a shopping cart for you of bestseller items that's already prepackaged at 3 sets, so that you're getting at least the bare minimum that you need to get started and have enough as like your one replacement or one in the closet and so forth. So we try to make it as easy as possible, because I think, oh man, I can't remember what it was. There's something like 740 items that are quote unquote required for a new home setup. And that's everything from like the batteries and the remote control to, the pillow inserts. And so, that's just a lot to think about, and we try to make it as easy as possible.
Yeah. And like I said, that's a huge value add, because like that for somebody, especially for somebody who's just starting out, or even a veteran, like for me, that's helpful. Like, even though I have a checklist, it's always super valuable that I don't have to go out and like, okay, well, what sheets are better? Like I do have these ones that I like, but maybe they aren't the best one, right? Or it's kind of a systems thing, and you guys have taken, I guess, the guesswork out of that particular system for setup for hosts.
For sure, and we've taken it out to the extent that like even if you aren't sure which linen you want because you're deciding between 2, we can just have the vendor send you free samples of a couple pillowcases so you can feel them and decide which ones you like.
No, that's super cool. No, I love that. Now, you've obviously experienced a ton of growth, like, over the years and since when you started. I'm kind of switch gears a little bit here.
Yeah,
like
of course.
how important, like for me, like mindset has been huge, like over my investing career. I like to go from, zero to, 500 plus units is kind of where we're at this point. And like for me, the mental obstacles, the hurdles and all that kind of stuff has been just massive. How important has mindset been to you kind of throughout this whole journey? Because, you started, in a completely different field, switch gears, transition, and now you've got a very successful business, that you guys have grown. How has that kind of played into, what you've been doing?
Yeah, I think, mindset has been really important. And I would say the most important mindset that I've had throughout is an open willingness to pivot and understand that things change and your business can change too. I mean, I've pivoted a lot. I mean, when I started doing lease arbitrage, first forget about when I was a lawyer, but when I started doing lease arbitrage, even to going into property management co-hosting, that happened because my lease arbitrage model that I had, which was a very unique way to do it, was great. But when that started to become less of an option, or when I was having a tougher time finding deals in that market with that economy, switching to property management and co-hosting made a lot of sense because I had a team. I had a team of 12 people or 8 people at that point that I could leverage to say, hey, look, we're doing property management and we're taking on deals at 20, 25%. We already have an infrastructure in place. Let's see what that looks like. And so the ability to, and then to pivot when regulations came through Los Angeles, which is where a lot of my units were, to say, okay, look, I'm pivoting from short-term to midterm, and can I make this work? And if I make this work, what do I need to do? I need to make a new midterm rental site. I need to start marketing in a different direction, et cetera. So the ability to kind of pivot throughout each iteration of a business and point in a different direction, that requires an open mindset to be willing to admit, one, that you might be wrong, that even if you were right, you could be wrong now, and that you need to be open to listening to and being attuned to bigger influences or bigger problems that might be occurring.
Yeah, no, for sure. And especially too, like instances right now, right? A perfect example, kind of looking from a macro perspective, I'm sure you follow economic trends and all that kind of stuff as well, as closely as I do, because it affects your business just as both on the granular level in terms of operations to with Host GPO and all that kind of stuff as well. So
absolutely.
It's like, okay, you need to be flexible enough to pivot.
Yeah. And look, I not to preach lease arbitrage to people, but it's a good example of hey, now's a decent time to think about that as a model, because with interest rates this high, a lot of these people in the Airbnb bust world are busting because they underwrote their properties that they were buying on potential short-term rental income, as opposed to, regular underwriting or whatever their investment strategy seemed to be. But given that, given the market right now, if you're trying to buy a property with the interest rates where they are, that's a really tough nut to crack on a short-term rental basis. But lease prices are going down, at least in my market. I have a friend who just got a rent decrease letter from his landlord that was like, hey, we're doing a decrease across the board just to make sure that people are okay with everything that's going on right now. And I don't know how common that is, but with money being expensive, lease arbitrage becomes a nice model.
Yeah, no, and I agree. And like I said, this comes back to kind of that ability to pivot. And not only that, but you've already been through a couple of cycles or a few cycles. I've been through a couple of cycles. So sometimes it takes that little bit of experience as an investor to understand that. It's like, well, look, it's not going to be like this forever. I hate to break it to you. If you weren't aware, 2-3% interest rates, are not normal. Those aren't going to last forever. And they haven't, obviously.
Yeah. And I hope that everybody listening that had the capital in place really took advantage of those interest rates, because it was free money out there. But Warren Buffett has a great quote about, you can really see who's naked when the tide goes down. And you want to be able to, when the tide starts going out, make sure that you can catch the next wave. And I think that's just a big part of mindset. Yep.
No, I absolutely agree. No, very good. Well, I'm gonna, this going to transition at this point of our show to a little bit of what we call like a fire round, just a little bit more kind of brief questions.
Sure.
You up for it?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
All right, right on. What's the best book that you recommend other than Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
Best book that I recommend for people like in life or in business?
Either one.
I'm a big fan of Atomic Habits. I think it's a really, really great like walk through of ways to approach getting through life in a productive way. I think that it's a good read and it's pretty easy and straightforward, and it just puts things in a nice way. So, breaking down how to create habits, good habits, how to break down bad habits. It's just a nice kind of overview for that. So I would say Atomic Habits.
Yeah, no, great book, great book. What would you consider your superpower?
I think my superpower is my ability to assemble a great team of people. I think that the Host GPO team and my vacation rental company team were very, very, very talented. And I think I was really good at picking great folks who wanted to be a part of something and who are really, really passionate about what we're doing.
No, and that's huge. In terms of scale, and if you ever want to grow, like it's very difficult. You're not going to go, you won't go very big if you're wanting to be a solo operator. I mean, it's going to take you a long, long time. So yeah, no, that's huge. And making the right hires. That's
I mean, a wrong hire is probably the most expensive business mistake you could make.
Yeah, huge. That is a superpower. What's the biggest lesson that you've learned over your career?
The worst decision is indecision. A lot of the times you just get stuck and you can actually really hurt yourself by not making a decision. Whereas even if you made a decision that wasn't right, you're at least figuring out what the wrong decision was and you can correct it. And the ability to correct decisions that are wrong in a timely and quick way is what leads to success. Pivoting doesn't just happen when market and outside factors change. It also happens when your own business changes and your ability to recognize even poor decisions.
Yeah, no, huge. No, really, really good. And then for the busy working professional, they're trying to work towards financial freedom. What advice would you have for them?
Never take on credit card debt that you're not going to be able to pay back, and those interest rates will bury you for life. Don't panic buy. The best one there is I think the 99-cent store is the most interesting model ever. It like taps into this weird like core mentality that humans have where it's like, oh, this is so cheap. And you like go and you buy like 2 paper clips and you're like, okay, well, these paper clips were 99 cents. This is the cheapest paper clips ever. But then you like realize, or you don't, that you can buy 10 paper clips for like $1.50 and the cost per paper clip goes down so much. But like, that's something that I just think the 99-cent store is built on breaking down big packages of things into very small quantities and then making you think that your cost per unit is, very low, but it's actually like triple, right? That's how they make money. They're not losing money. So I think financial freedom comes from sound financial planning, which can happen in a lot of ways, but not the least of which is don't pay egregious interest rates and don't over leverage yourself and don't panic buy and pay, extra for what you're getting. I mean, that applies across the board. Don't buy like a tiny little, like, it's just such a wild thing to me. Like, and I get it. Like sometimes you have to, and your back's against the wall and you don't have a choice, but like people that buy like the tiny little toothpaste, or like one toothpaste, like you're going to use 2 big tubes of toothpaste. Like just buy the bigger toothpaste. You're going to use it. Somebody's going to use it. You're going to use the toothpaste. Like just don't buy like the tiny little one. That stuff drives me nuts.
I can tell.
Yeah, so I'm really passionate about people not making that mistake.
No, that's awesome. Well, how can if our audience wants to reach out, they want to get in touch with you, learn a little bit more about the business and Host GPO. What's the best way to get in touch with you guys?
Yeah, you can go to hostgpo.com. It's HOST for host. and then GPO, which stands for Group Purchasing Organization. So HostGPO.com. You can chat with us there. You can sign up to become a member. There's a 3-month free trial where it's totally free. You can use it. You can try it out. You can see what it is. And, give us a follow on all the relevant socials. We're just Host GPO on everything. And that's kind of the best way to get in touch and reach out. And, feel free to, if you have questions for me about anything in lease arbitrage or anything else, feel free to ask. And, I'm looking forward to hopefully having some folks that are listening. Hopefully that was some value, for you and some decent advice. And, at the very least, would love to have you give us a shot, to join our community.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Jeff, well, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. I really appreciate you jumping on today. Of course, not only giving us a little bit about your background, but about the company as well. And I mean, you're bringing tremendous value, I think, to the short-term rental, the vacation rental community. So yeah, thanks for jumping on, and I really appreciate it.
Of course, really appreciate being here and appreciate having you as a member of our community as well. So thank you again for having me. Yeah,
absolutely. Thanks, Jeff. Aloha.
Take care. Bye.
What a great episode with Jeff Iloulian from Host GPO. Boy, he's got some great insight. For one, for not only being, great business owner, entrepreneur, and he's been through a couple of different economic cycles. So he's got insight from that perspective, but also from, a short-term rental operator, right? He's got intimate knowledge of what it takes to have a large portfolio. I know he said that they were personally managed about 150, but set up, over the lifetime of his career, upwards of 250 plus units. So great insight. And then definitely check out, of course, their site, Host GPO, just to make your life a little bit easier in terms of unit setup, quality, all that kind of stuff. They've got some great vendors on there. Like I said, I personally use them. So great having Jeff on the show. But that's going to be it for today, guys. Of course, if you guys are here locally, we've got a meetup coming up. We do these every month. If you're here in the Honolulu area, or if you're in Hawaii in general, or if you just want to fly in and connect with some local Hawaii investors, join our Facebook group, Honolulu Multifamily and More. We do monthly meetups there. So we're glad to meet you in person. We greatly look forward to that. Of course, if you found value in this podcast, this episode or any others, we'd love your 5-star review wherever you're listening to us, whether that be, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever. We'd love a 5-star review. That greatly helps us out. And then, of course, share the show, so if you know somebody else that might find some value, make sure that you're sharing the show. Also, too, make sure that you're making plans. We've got the conference coming up, the Hawaii Millionaire Mindset Blueprint 2.0. So this is going to be the second annual version of it. That's going to be happening June 29th through July 1st over on the beautiful Big Island at the Mauna Lani Resort. So make sure that you're making plans to be there. We'll make sure we include the link in the show notes so you guys can check that out. But that's going to be it for today, guys. Look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Cash Flow Project. Aloha.